Welcome back, CSE 235, to ex2b validate 21. JS validate 21 we'll call it. And we're going to do this from scratch, and we're going to learn lots of cool JavaScript stuff and programming stuff from this exercise, and hopefully build on it and make it more efficient as we work. So what we're going to do is just start a new repel. So we'll create repel and make sure it's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and call it 235 just to make sure it's for this course and not for 230. And I'll just put a dash, and I'll put JS validate 21, and I'll just put my initials. I'll put CJH as my initials in here. So that helps me when I see your repels. It's just easier when I have a whole bunch of students sending me repels and I'm looking at them. It's easier when I have an initial in there to know which one it is, and it's not mine, it's not somebody else's. So do that, and even if it's a little different, that's fine, but whatever helps you find it. So I'm going to create repel. And when you get your default skeleton HTML here, we don't need any of this JavaScript that's already in here. We're going to keep the script in there. And I like to tab it over, so it's using the bigger tab. And hello world we don't need. But while we're in there, I'm going to tab over, as long as we're here, put in a paragraph so we could display something. And I'll just put P #, and we'll just use demo like W3 schools, and I'll hit tab. That will make an empty paragraph so that we can display stuff in that paragraph. Now eventually we'll put a button here as well that will confirm our age. And if you want to put a button here, you might as well do it here, because then we'll be done. You can put button, and we'll give it an ID. We'll just call it BTN and hit tab. That way we'll have a button here, and then you want to put a label on the button, so you can put, I'll just put confirm you are 21 on the button. And if we run it, we got a button there, and we have nothing showing up in here because this is going to be the output that's going to say whether you are 21 or you're not. And you could do it in big and red or whatever you want, or just now we'll just do it in regular text. So we have our script running here. Now we don't have any script happening yet. We have a script file, a JavaScript file that we're linking to, because that's how we're linking to it. But there's nothing in here. So what we're going to do first is just use some of that code that we used from our previous exercise just to get the date, the month, and the year, because that's what we need to know if you're 21. And basically, you want to think about, how do you figure out if someone's 21? Well, you could basically take their birthday. Hey, when were you born? Whatever. If today was September 17th and you were born today, but in 2002, you add 21 years to that, and today should be the day that they turn 21. So we have to make sure we have the right year, and also the birthday is after a certain point. So we may have to troubleshoot that as we go as well. So we'll see how that works out. What we'll do first is create a date object like we did before. And we did a const, and we used something called D, and we said that's going to equal new date. And we did that in the last exercise, the date object. And then from there, we'll use d.getDate, whatever we need to do. So we'll put that first, and then we'll say we're going to use the date, the month, and the year. And when you usually ask someone, they usually say, oh, well, the month is first. Oh, when's your birthday? You don't say what the date is. You don't say, oh, it's the 21st of September. You say the month first. So we'll do month first. So let month, we'll just call it month, equals, and that's assignment, and we'll do the get month. And we have to do d.getMonth, like that. And if it turns yellow, you're in good shape. So d.getMonth. And you shouldn't have any red wavy lines. So that's going to be our first method that's going to get the month, the current month. This is going to be using the current day, so it's going to be up to date. That's why we're doing this. So that's why we're getting all the current stuff as current as possible. So we have let month, then we'll do let date equals d.getDate. There's getDate, parentheses, semicolon. And then finally, we'll do the full year. If we're doing any math, we want to make sure that we're doing the full year. So we'll do let, and we'll do year, and we'll do d.fullYear. And you can see it's a capital F, it's a capital Y, camel case, and then parentheses, semicolon. So we're just getting those values. It's just going to hold it in storage right now, in local storage, before we do anything with it as a variable. Then to get the information from the user to see if they are 21, we're going to prompt them. So we're going to have variables that hold that information that they put in. So this is the current information. You could go here and put current date information, user date info. And remember, you can highlight that, or just put slashes in front of it is fine. And what we'll do is we'll set up a window prompt. It's like an input in Python. So this will be like an alert window, except it'll have a field to enter information like you saw before. And we're going to have variables represent that information that people type in there so we can use it. The problem is some of this information is going to be strings and we're going to need to convert it to numbers. But let's just get started. Let's just say let, and we'll put b month for birthday month, and we'll put equals, and then we have to put prompt. Just like in Python, we put input, we put prompt, and we put parentheses, and then in here we're going to put a string, and we're going to ask a question, and we'll just put, or a statement, we'll put enter your birth month, because we'll just follow this order here, and I'll try to spell it right. You can put a colon and a space, and then we'll put a semicolon, and I'll just copy this so we follow the same process, and I'll put birth date, and we'll say enter. Hopefully they'll know just to put in the number. And again, we're not being perfect about this. Hopefully they'll just put in the month, the date, and the year. So they're going to type in the month, they're going to type in the date, and then what we'll do is we'll just paste this again, and we'll put B year. Enter the year you were born, or however you want to state that. We could tweak things later. So enter your birth month, which should be, July, August, whatever. Enter the date of your birth, which should be the 22nd, the 14th, whatever it is, and enter the year, which should be 2001, 2002. What should it be? And actually, let's use our calculator here. If we just take today's date, right now it's September 18th. It's 2023. And if we subtract 21, that would make it 2002. So if their birthday was Monday, September 18th, 2022, they should be 21. So let's just put a comment just so we know that. And again, you may be doing this on a different day, but so their birthday should be at least, if you're checking IDs or anything like that, should be at least September 18th, 2002. That would be the magic date. If you were somebody carding people, that would be the magic date. So if that would be their birthday today, you'd be like, hey, happy birthday. Anything later than that, they wouldn't be 21 yet. So anything before that. Now, the problem is we have to break this down in 3 separate parts. We just can't look at a date and say, okay, it's less than that, based on them entering 3 separate fields. There are ways you can just get a date and see if something's less than or greater than, but the way they're putting this in is we're getting 3 separate fields, so we have to kind of look at each thing differently. So one of the things that we can kind of look at is if their birth year was less than this. So we know that if it's like 2001, so if it's their birth year plus 21, as long as it's less than the current year. So this equals the year, so that creates a problem. But if their B year, and let's just say plus 21, if you add 21, if it's less than the current year, which is 2023, then they're 21. So I'll just put a equal sign and an arrow, and they're 21. So that's one condition. So this is figuring out the conditions. We got a lot of other stuff to do. But if their birth year plus 21 is less than a year, then they're 21. Now, if it's the same, which is this, if it's 2002, they were born in 2002, you have to make sure that the month, that the B month is definitely less than the current month. So it would have to be, August or sometime July before that. So they already had their birthday. We're not looking at this month yet, so we're just looking at that because we don't know. We're still in the middle of this month, so we don't know. But if it's definitely before that, we don't have to worry about what the date is. We only have to worry about the date if their month is September currently. So if their birth year is plus 21, is less than, then they're 21. If it's less than 2023, and if it's not, if their birth year plus 21 is equal to the year, let's just say this: if their birth year plus 21 is equal to the current year, then I'll just put a colon here. Then their birth month still has to be less than that month. So if it's 2023, they have to be born in August or before. And if it's the same, then we have another issue. Then there's kind of like 3 things. If their birth year plus 21 is this year. This is the only problem if it's this year. And I'll just put an N sign here. And their birth month is equal, meaning it's September. So if it's equal to month, that creates another problem. It's like, oh, you were born in September. What has to happen then? Well, then, or you have to make sure that today's date is the date of their birthday or less. So then their birth date has to be less than or equal to the current date. Okay, so we have kind of 3 steps we're going to have to do that. So, and again, I did not intend this to be that complicated. I expected this to be something easy. And as I dug into it, even I did a practice one and it worked, but I was adding them all together and I was just getting lucky. But this is the way we're going to have to do this. So we're going to have to use kind of multiple if-else to do that. And that's fine, because if we're validating things, it's good to learn that stuff anyway. It may be a lot for exercise 2b, but we're going to have to do that anyway. And what we're also going to have to do is we're going to have to convert some of this stuff here, because if we want to actually figure out if something is less than that, if you're comparing birth month to month, you have a string here that says January, and then you have a month that has a number. So we're going to have to convert that to the same number. And there's different ways to do it, but we'll do it the old-fashioned way. The date we don't have to worry about. Date is date. Even if it comes in as a string, that should be fine. And the year should be fine, except if we have to add something to it. That creates a problem. So if we take their year, their birth year, and we add 21 to it, we have to make sure that it's a number, we convert it to a number. So there's a lot of stuff we have to do here. Again, I wasn't intending it to be this complicated. I thought it would really be easy, but why not? Let's just keep going with it at this point, and kind of learn from it. And every little problem we face, we'll kind of learn from. So we think we got this already. We already did this in the first exercise. And we're getting these prompts here. And just to see how these prompts work, you just run it over here, and then you'll get this. So you enter your birth month. So what you're going to do, and again, I'll continue with my one daughter's, and hers is July. So I'll just put in July, and I'll put lowercase July. We're going to make something where you could use capital or lowercase July. I'll hit OK. And then the date of your birth, I'll put 26. And then enter the year you were born, I'll put 2001. Now, she should be 21 because that's plus 21 makes it 2022, which makes it less than the current year. So there's nothing here doing anything yet. So we have to have some kind of output that says either you are 21 or you're not 21 yet. And that's going to show up in our demo here. Before we can compare anything yet, what we want to do is we want to take the month, because we're putting in a string of a month, and all these are strings. Because we're putting in a string in a month. And what we'll do, and I'll do this real quick, so I'll just show you what to do. We're going to go backwards from what we did on the other one, and we're going to convert the month they enter back into a number. So how would you do that? Well, let's do that right here before all our comments here. We'll go here and we'll put an if statement. So we'll say if. We're going to put parentheses, and we're going to go by what they entered as a prompt. That means, let's use this B month here. If B month equals, and I'll put in quotes January because it's a string, and I'll put a capital J. And we can't just put like or January with a small j. We have to copy it again. So, but let's just do this first. Let's do it all with capital letters. And then we'll put our opening and closing curly braces. Now in here, we have to put what's going to happen. If they enter January, then B month is now going to become, and then we use equals, because remember, now we're assigning it. So now we're going to put B month equals 0, because that's what it is to the computer, and that's what we're going to be comparing, because that's how they get it. So we're going to do that. So that's going to be the setup here. And even before we copy and paste anything, let's just go in here inside the parentheses and put or. And we use double pipes, or straight line, the straight slashes we'll put in here. Sometimes they call them pipes. 2 straight slashes. And then we have to put, and that means or, and that's here in JavaScript comparison operators. And means and those two things mean or, and that means not before something else. So we'll go here and I'll copy this, and I'll put this here, and I'll just put a small j. Now there's other ways to do this. We can convert it all to uppercase and stuff like that, but just for now we'll just do it very basic. So if B month equals January, or they typed in January with a small j. Now we could even do something with a wildcard, so if they even just put in Jan and they spell it wrong, that's okay. But let's just do it like this. So we have this right now. Now before we do the next one, or we could do this, let's just copy this, and I'll put it right here. I'll put a space, and I'll paste it. Now I didn't copy the I, but I have to put else if anyway. And it's 2 words, else if. And all the rest are going to be else if. And this one is going to be February. Who's, the chances of somebody spelling this wrong, although if it's your birthday month, you should know how to spell it. And this is going to be 1. Okay, so now what we could do is just copy this going down. So I'm not going to talk over this. I'm just going to go do it, and then when I play back the video, I'm going to do it real quick. But you see what I'm doing, because all the other ones are going to do else if, and we won't even do an else at the end. So there'll be else if for all the other ones. So let's go do this, and it'll be quiet, and you'll just see what I'm doing. And obviously I'll have to change them to be March, April, and so on. So I'll do that really quick. I'll speed up the video and do that. So let's go do that quick. Okay, there's the first 6. Now we're going to do 6 more. All right, and let's check all this stuff. We should have 12. And the best way to make sure we have 12, we should number them so they go up to 11. And I didn't number them, so let me number them. 2, 3. All right, we have 12 of them. And we're basically reassigning a month number based on what they enter. And hopefully they'll enter one of these 2 things. If they enter an error, they type it wrong, we're just going to have to deal with that. Make sure you have an extra curly brace down here. I'll put a space here. So every if and else if should have its own set of curly braces, and in there should be something that happens after a condition. So the condition is in parentheses. This is or, so they could enter it with a capital letter or not capital letter. And basically B month is now reset to be one of these numbers based on what they add. And because we're resetting it as a number, we don't have to do any kind of conversion there. Now, one other conversion I'm going to do here, and I'll just come and do this because I got an error when I was adding things together, because if you try to add the birth year 21, like if you just do that and you say, okay, B year, and let's just call it B year 21. If you want to say, let a new variable called let B year 21, and let it be assigned to B year plus 21, and you just did something like that. Now, I'll show you right away, if we just go down here and do console log, it's a good way to test it, and just put B year 21. Let me make sure I have this right. Let B year 21 equals B year plus 21. So we're going to print out B year 21 just to see what it looks like. And let's see if it shows up down here. I'm going to click here, and I may get other things coming up, but let's just see what happens here. Birth month, let me just put this out. November, date of birth, I'll put 12. Okay, now this is the one. If I put in 2002, I hit OK. Look what's happening down here. It's going 2002-21. So that's logging that in. So it's using a string plus a number, and it's doing that, 2002-21. So just like in Python, we can convert something to an int. We can also do that in JavaScript. We can actually go here and do something called parse. Everything's a little more wordy in JavaScript. That's why Python's nice, it's simple, but we can do something called parse, capital INT, and then wrap that around birth year. So that should parse that string and make it into an integer. It's really going to do math now. So it won't do math unless we do that. So let's just do it one more time here. July, it's an easy one to type, 26. And then here's the important one, 2002. I'll hit OK. Now it's doing the math. And that's coming up with 2023. So that means because it's not going to be this condition where it's less than birth year plus 21 is less than the current year. We're going to have to then look at the month. And this one would work out because as long as the month is less than September, we're good. So she would fall under this category. But if someone had a birthday in September, they would have to go to this category because we'd have to find out that their birthday came. So that's what we're going to kind of figure out next. So our next part of this, we now have a number for the month that we could use. We even have a birth year 21 to compare against the current year. to make sure that if it's less than or equal or whatever, and then we're going to do some conditions, and then that will determine if they're 21 or not. So we're going to do that in the next video. So we have everything set up, and we're just going to do our condition to make it actually print out. We're going to do our printouts here on the screen based on what happens. Now, we don't have it working off a button yet, but we can eventually. But for now, I think we're ready to go on to the next video. So that's the end of part 2. Let's move on to part 3, where we'll actually try to get this to work.